I'm just going to introduce myself again really quickly. So I work at the Department of Medicaid, and
Mhm.
I work on a small but mighty team of OhioRiSE folks. And my job is really to talk with families and people around the state who are interested in learning about OhioRiSE and what it is. And I'll turn it over to Shannon to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes, and
Sometimes I'm double muted and I just start talking. My name is Shannon Hunter. I am the Family Engagement Director for OhioRiSE.
And how about Sharon?
hi everyone. I'm Sharon Harper, and I am the grandma of Jade and Jacob, who has autism, behavioral issues, and has been traumatized in his previous home. And he's also a member of OhioRiSE and the board of MRDD, our local board of MRDD.
All right. Thank you so much, Shannon and Sharon. All right, so I'm going to jump right into what the OhioRiSE program is. So I like to start with the title because we use acronyms a lot at the state. So the RISE in OhioRiSE stands for Resilience Through Integrated Systems and Excellence. And what we're really trying to do is make sure that OhioRiSE is a program that's integrated across all of our child and youth serving systems at the state and local level. So this is really a program that is helpful for families and kin who are trying to navigate across all of the systems that their youth is involved with. So if they have a developmental disability need, if they're involved with child protection, if they're involved with the court, we want to make sure that this program is tailored to help coordinate care across those systems. And so when we've designed the program, we designed it with our state and local partners. So OhioRiSE is a new program. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, or our birthday, on July 1st. So we launched last July. We're really still very much in the implementation phase of the program. So just trying to get out there and talk to people and let them know that the program is available to youth and families. Also, trying to make sure that the services that are now covered in Medicaid are around the state. We know that we're still building capacity for some of the services, but it is for youth that have significant behavioral health needs, and it's also for youth that have co-occurring needs. So they could have a behavioral health disorder, but also maybe they have a developmental disability as well, just to give an example. And so we've got some objectives that we wanted to outline for you, and just to tell you a little bit more about the background of the program. So it is a Medicaid managed care program for children and youth with complex behavioral health and multi-system needs. Again, systems could span from behavioral health to the courts to child protection, just as an example. We have new and improved services and supports that are now reimbursable through Medicaid. And we have utilized a model called high fidelity wraparound. And that's, again, wrapping services and supports around the family and the youth based on their needs and strengths. And that model really puts the family and the youth at the center. So we're really listening to what they want, what their preferences are, what their needs are, so that we can hear them, and then we can make decisions and support what their needs are. And then they stay more engaged in the OhioRiSE program and in all of the services and supports that are being offered to them. And then they have better health outcomes that way. And then finally, the OhioRiSE program is really about supporting a youth and a family's needs across all of the systems through care coordination. This is like our wheel, if you will, of services that are now available through OhioRiSE. Something to really note is if a youth does enroll into the program, they end up with 2 managed care insurance programs, one for their physical health care and one for their behavioral health care. And so their physical health care would be covered by their current managed care organization, like Buckeye, CareSource, Molina, any of those plans that they currently have today. They'd continue to have those once enrolled in the program, but only for their physical health care services. And then they'd get another card or an updated card that would have Aetna, Aetna, the OhioRiSE plan, and that would cover their behavioral health care services. We've also added a crisis service called Mobile Response Stabilization Service, or MRSS. We know that oftentimes youth experience some kind of a crisis out in the community, and instead of calling the law enforcement officers to come and intervene, we wanted to make sure that youth and families have access to a provider that can help link youth and families to services. And so this mobile response stabilization service, the number's right here in this slide deck that we'll send out afterwards. A team would come out to wherever you're at, and they would de-escalate the situation, and then they would give an assessment to see if the youth is eligible for the OhioRiSE program. And then for the next several weeks, next 6 weeks to be exact, this team can link you to additional services and supports. This was only available in a few counties in Ohio, and now there's I think a little bit under like 40 or so counties that now have this service. So again, we're still growing capacity for MRSS, but there, if you call this number and it's not available in your county, the line will still connect you to a local crisis provider in your area. And then moving up the wheel, we have care coordination. And so there's limited, moderate, and intensive care coordination. So we've got 3 different levels of care coordination, and that is determined after that assessment is done. And I'll talk more about it in a few slides, but care coordination, it's determined by that youth and family's needs. So if the youth is enrolled into the program and they've got a lot of needs, a lot of challenges going on, they might be given the moderate or the intensive care coordination level. And then we also have intensive home-based treatment, or IHBT. This is provided in the home typically or in a community setting. And this really helps to improve daily behavioral health functioning. It's only a service available to youth in OhioRiSE. And again, this is one of those services that is available around Ohio, but not in every county just yet, or there's typically a wait list for this type of a service. We also have psychiatric residential treatment facility, or PRTF. And this is a residential facility that right now has only been available to youth outside of state. So we've been sending our youth out of state for this type of residential facility. And we're really excited because we are bringing it here in Ohio at the end of this year. We are currently working with Aetna, the OhioRiSE plan, to stand up this type of facility here in Ohio. And what this will do is it'll keep families closer to each other so that when they need this type of care, the family can stay connected to the youth. And then when the youth transitions out of the facility, they get those services that they need in the community wrapped around them a lot quicker. There's also a behavioral health respite, and this just gives caregivers a break, a temporary relief from one another. It helps to keep families safe and together in the community. And it's also helpful in keeping families together and not needing that placement service. And then we have primary flexible dollars. So this is $1,500 that's provided to the youth and family in a 365-day period of time. And when we say they're flexible funds, they really are. We've heard a lot of different examples about how youth have been utilizing these funds. A lot of them are used for maybe updating wardrobes because they're being bullied at school, or maybe they need job placement when they're transitioning and they're 18 or 19 years old. We also have heard stories about the funding being utilized for if they want to join a recreational sport or something in the community, it might pay for registration fees. If they're excited about music lessons and they need maybe an instrument, the funds have paid for a musical instrument and lessons. So just different things that help a youth really stay connected and integrated into the community to stay well. And then also for any safety needs also. And then, so those are really the services that are now funded by the Department of Medicaid. And this is really the general OhioRiSE program services. And then that last bullet over on the right where it says new OhioRiSE waiver. So on top of the general program, if a youth needs additional services, they can access out-of-home respite. So it's similar to that behavioral health respite I mentioned, but this is an out-of-home respite. And this is only available to youth who have certain criteria that they have to meet to get that extra service line. So for example, they would have to have a serious emotional disturbance diagnosis. They would have to need an inpatient level of care stay. They don't have to be in an inpatient space facility, but they would have to show that they have those kinds of needs. And then the waiver would provide things like this out-of-home respite service, transitional services and supports, which help families transition when they're going through different life changes, and then secondary flexible dollars. So in addition to that $1,500 in a 365-day period, there's another $3,000 that's available. All right, so that was a lot to cover for the services, but these are the services that are available in the OhioRiSE program. So who is eligible? So you're probably wondering is, you know, the child that I'm taking care of, could they be eligible for the OhioRiSE program? They have to be 0 through 20 at the time of enrollment, Medicaid eligible, so they could already be in managed care like through Buckeye or CareSource or Molina, or they could be in straight Medicaid, which we call fee-for-service Medicaid. They could also already have an existing waiver through the Department of Developmental Disabilities. But the key component of being eligible for the program, and I mentioned this earlier, is that they have to have a significant behavioral health treatment need. And again, they can have co-occurring needs as well, but behavioral health is the main component. And this is all determined by an assessment that we call the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths, or the CANS assessment. And I'll talk about how to get one of those scheduled. 2 additional ways that youth can get enrolled into the OhioRiSE program is if they have an inpatient stay in a hospital for mental illness or substance use disorder, or an inpatient stay in one of those PRTF facilities or the psychiatric residential treatment facilities that are out of state currently. So those last 2 bullets there, if they have one of those hospital stays or residential treatment facility stays, they are almost automatically enrolled. Otherwise, they have to get that CANS assessment.
We had one question from a caregiver. Is there an income eligibility requirement?
There is, and that's just if you're in the general Medicaid program itself. So once you're eligible for our general Medicaid program, then you would see if you qualify for the OhioRiSE program, which is based on that behavioral health need. So you have to be eligible for Medicaid.
Okay, I think I'm not an expert on this, but I think most children in kinship care might automatically qualify for Medicaid. So I think it would apply to most caregivers here, which is great.
Yep, and then they would just want to get this assessment. And I have a few slides about best ways to reach out and get one of those scheduled if interested.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the question too. That was a good one. So what is a what is that assessment that we've been talking about, the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths Assessment. So this assessment is pretty comprehensive. It doesn't just look at the youth. It also looks at who else is involved in that youth's life. And it's not just looking at their needs and trying to fill those needs, but it's really trying to look at their strengths and how can we build upon those strengths. It's another way to also determine it is the way to determine program eligibility, and it's updated on an ongoing basis every 90 days to support ongoing care planning. So one of the things that this assessment does is it recommends a level of that care coordination. So again, we've got 3 different levels: limited care coordination, moderate care coordination, and intensive care coordination. So through the assessment, it's going to recommend based on that youth and that family story and things that they learn and who else is involved in that youth's life and what's going on, what their level of care coordination might need it to be. And this is how much help they're going to get to support that family. So, you know, if the child has some significant behavioral health challenges, they might need intensive care coordination where they're meeting with the family every week of the month. And I'll talk about the tiers of care coordination in just a moment as well. So I talked about kind of like the goals of the program and what it's about. I talked about the services and then who's eligible. And I talked a little bit about the CANS assessment tool as a way into the program. And now I'm going to talk about our care management entities that are a really big piece or component of the OhioRiSE program and how they deliver care coordination. So what's a care management entity? So these are new. We have created them in the OhioRiSE program. They are really a go-to place for youth and for families, and they are located geographically across the state. They serve many different counties, and I'll show you a map in a moment. They're also a place, they're almost like a hub in the community for not just the youth and the family, but for providers that family is involved with to work together with the care management entity to support that youth and family. They have 2 responsibilities. They deliver care coordination, and they also are there to help learn about and grow the system of care. So what are the resources in that community? Learning about those resources, helping to grow those resources, also that they can connect families to those resources. So this slide shows what care coordination looks like in the OhioRiSE program. Again, we use a national model. We use the principles of that model, and we use it specifically for those kids with the most needs in that intensive care coordination level of care. So if you look at the picture where it says care coordinator, again, we put in the model, we put the family and the youth at the center so that we're listening to what they want and their priorities and what their needs are. And we identify, the care coordinator will identify, okay, who else is this family involved with in other systems? So again, they might have a developmental disability need. They might be involved with the juvenile justice system or the child protection system. Maybe they have some physical health care needs, so they have a primary care physician. They could also have natural supports that are really involved in their life, like extended family members, neighbors, or friends. Maybe they're involved with a church or some sort of a civic group. And so any of these folks that the family and the youth identify as important or that's already a part of their life, giving them formal or informal supports, they can come and wrap themselves around that family and be a part of this child's team of people that are identified to care about this child and provide services and supports. So the care coordinator, what they're doing is they're wrapping around all of these different folks and they're creating team meetings. And this is so that the family no longer has to juggle the responsibility of going to meetings across all of these different systems, retelling their story over again, and what one system said to do versus what another system said to do. It's really meant to start to coordinate that care across the systems that they're involved with. And then to develop one kind of plan that everybody in these different systems knows about, so that the family has one plan instead of multiple plans and getting lost. So care coordination is a really big component of OhioRiSE. I'm trying to get the slide to change. Okay. Okay, so now that we talked about what care coordination looks like at a higher level, let's talk about that care coordination and which tier assignment or level of care assignment a youth could get. So once they're enrolled into OhioRiSE and they do the CANS assessment, that will recommend which tier or which level of care coordination they need. And again, there's three tiers of care coordination. Limited care coordination is delivered by the OhioRiSE Plan Aetna. And this is for youth and families that don't really need a lot of support, a lot of help. They've gotten things a lot under control, or this family, maybe they actually did need a higher level of care. Maybe they needed moderate or intensive care coordination, but because of the number of meetings that they're already having with other systems and what their expectations are and how they, what their voice and choice says about what they want and what they really need, they could actually choose to have limited care coordination instead of one of the higher levels of care. They could say, no, I can't have another meeting with another entity in my life. Like, this is too much. Or the youth might say, this is too much for me. It's not helpful. And so they would be in limited care coordination. And this is really an Aetna person, an Aetna care coordinator that supports this youth more in the background and is always there, you're always able to reach out to them to assist. And at any time you can move into a different care level of care coordination. And then there's tier 2, moderate care coordination, and tier 3, intensive. And both of those level of care coordination are delivered by one of those care management entities, where I'll show you on a map where those are across the state. And they're that go-to place for care coordination. And so these youth that have more moderate and intensive needs, they're really getting more innovative plans. They're meeting more frequently with the family and with the youth. There's certain requirements for the care coordinators to do things like in intensive care coordination, they have to meet with the family every week. But if things are really intense, they might meet with that family every day for a week until things are under control and the family's feeling like they have the supports in place that they need. They're really flexible and they're always there. So how do you get connected to get that CANS assessment scheduled so that you can enroll into the OhioRiSE program? So here are those care management entities that I've talked about, the go-to place for care coordination, and they are really a great place to get the CANS assessment done. And so there's 20 different of these color-coded geographic areas. And so there's one care management entity in each of these color-coded areas, and you can find them on the map. And then over here on the right-hand side, there's 3 counties in the state that are more metropolitan, like Cuyahoga County, Franklin, and Hamilton. And those counties have more than one care management entity because of the population size. So in Hamilton County, there's 2 care management entities. In Franklin, there's 2, and in Cuyahoga, there's actually 3. And it's based on like the west side, the central part of Cuyahoga, and the east side of Cuyahoga, for example. So if you know your care management entity based on that map, so say, for example, I'm in Medina County, I'm green, I'm gonna go over here, Medina County, I'm with Wingspan Care Group, that's my care management entity, and I wanna schedule this CANS assessment. I'd come over here, look for Wingspan, and I see that here's an email address, and I could just email them and say I'm so-and-so, and I think my the person that I'm think that would benefit from OhioRiSE is so-and-so. Can you reach out to me and we'll get this CANS assessment scheduled? Or you can give them a call and they would schedule the CANS assessment with you. For those metropolitan areas, Cuyahoga and Hamilton, for example, they just go by zip code, and we listed all the zip codes here. This is also on our OhioRiSE website too. But so if you were in 44022 in Cuyahoga County, you would know that you're in the east part of Cuyahoga County. So then you could go back up to the map, and since it said East Cuyahoga County, look for Cuyahoga, there you are, East, and you would know that you're with Ravenwood Health. And then you could reach out to them. You'd come here again, Ravenwood, and reach out to them. All right, there's other ways to get the CANS assessment scheduled. You can do it that way through your care management entity, which I always recommend going to first. Or you can look at the back of your insurance card, and you can find the phone number, or you can use the slide. And if you know that you have CareSource, for example, you could just call this number or reach out to this email address, and you can schedule the CANS assessment through your current managed care organization. They know about OhioRiSE and they know how to refer you to get that CANS assessment scheduled. You can also reach out to us at Medicaid. There's a Medicaid consumer hotline, or you can reach out to Aetna, the OhioRiSE plan. They have a member services line. All right, that's all for me. I feel like I talked a whole lot. So I am gonna check out the chat and turn it over to Shannon, Hunter, and Sharon to talk about the Member and Family Advisory Council and to share their experience.
And Angela, are there any questions for Kelly before I get started, or you want to wait till after?
We can wait until the end.
Okay, sounds great. Again, my name is Shannon Hunter. I am the Family Engagement Director for OhioRiSE. Just a little background on myself. I am a social worker by trade. I've been in the field for quite some time as a social worker. I am a mother with 4 children, and they have been a part of the behavioral health and a plethora of IEPs, and just dealing with navigating the system, even though I feel that I have the experience and knowledge, I still get the roadblocks even today with my children getting the services that they need. To be in the position that I'm in, I had to have that lived experience as a parent, because in order to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk. And so I'm one to do that. I don't oversee the council oversees me. I have just a wealth of knowledge of parents, grandparents, as you'll hear from Sharon today, professors from universities. We have attorneys on the council. We have folks that are at the beginning of their journey, and those who have gone through the journey and they have seen the success. So we have that range of parents, families, adoptive parents, and foster parents who have children that have been a part of the system for a long time and continue to have that revolving door. For myself, I want to ensure that that voice and choice, as Kelly stated, is aligned with OhioRiSE, and that it's woven into everything that we do with regard to our policies, how we do processes, and our procedures within what we give out to the community, and how we work with our CMEs, and how we present ourselves in meetings like this. So it's important that we listen to our families, we listen to our parents, our grandparents, our foster parents, And when we're sitting, doing the CANS assessment, like Kelly had stated, if there's issues with not getting certain services, if you're having services that are working well, how can we share that with other families? So that's important as a member of the council. We align that voice and choice with our continuous improvements within OhioRiSE. We look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats with OhioRiSE and our care management entities and our community partners. We have our advisory council speak at different forums like Sharon will do today. We have our advisory councils. They work on, flyers. We have meetings every third Thursday of the month, so we can convene and discuss what's working well, what's not working well, what we can take back to our ODM partners to say, okay, this is working well. What can we do about this? So we have our plan of action in place. We have our advisory councils on our internal meetings within Aetna. So we have some advisory councils on our systems of care meetings, on our population health meetings. So they're really invested in what we do. So if anyone would like to learn more about our councils and be a part of that and provide your voice, I'll put my information in the chat. I'll be more than happy to come out and do a one-on-one, to come out and provide any insight that we might have, bring a family member out there. We have co-chairs in every catchment area. We have a co-chair in the West, the Southeast, North, and Central. And they are parents with that lived experience, and they can provide some of that guidance and that listening ear. My email is actually on this slide here, and I can also put it in the chat if you all can't see the slide and you're on your phones. But I'm an open book. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Angela, I'm grateful that you are allowing our families to be able to speak and learn more about OhioRiSE. It's a phenomenal program. We're still learning and growing, and we're excited about our year anniversary coming up. And thank you, Kelly, for your continued support and partnership. I will turn it over to Sharon so she can provide her story. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Harper, and my husband Don and I have been involved in our grandson's Jaden's life since he was a newborn. On November 13th of 2021, my son Robert was told by Jaden's mom not to bring him back after his weekend visitation. On November 15th, 2021, Don and I became Jaden's full-time caregivers. In the past, we always were told that Jaden was receiving all the services he needed. We found out very quickly it was not true. Jaden had no services. He was removed from school 2 years earlier and suffered a lot of trauma. We got busy compiling a list of Jaden's needs. In December, I started making phone calls to help him out. In the hundreds of phone calls I made over the next few months, I only received a 10% callback, and half of them couldn't help because at that point, Jaden was 14. On January 2022, Jaden started becoming very aggressive with us. I was in contact with his psychiatrist to see what we could do. She prescribed one medication after another because of all of his behavioral problems. None of the medication was going to help. My last call to her was in May of 2022 when she advised us to make him a ward of the state and walk away. Jaden didn't need us to walk away. He needed people that would fight for him. And that's what we did. We got him speech therapy, occupational therapy, and a tutor to start. We wanted a school that would meet all Jaden's needs. I started calling and viewing schools, reviewing everything with his dad, Robert, and my husband, Don. Our first choice in schools did not have an opening. I kept searching for more services. Jaden's behaviors had gotten so bad that he had done a significant amount of damage to our home and to us. So we found out about Nationwide Children's in the beginning of May. My husband and Rob took Jaden to Columbus. At that time, they decided it wasn't a good idea to leave him, as he'd never been away from any of us. But things just kept getting worse. So around the 23rd of May last year, Jaden was admitted for 10 days. All his medications were changed. And we also changed his doctors from local doctors to doctors down there. We've been involved with OhioRiSE since the beginning, and Jaden is a level 3. I want you all to know that on the 25th of May, Jaden had a horrible meltdown. He kicked out the windshield of my husband's car and bit my husband really bad. And it's all because of his trauma that he suffered. We know that he wouldn't be doing this if he was treated better. So we again had to have him admitted to Nationwide. And Shannon also Jaden's care coordinator, her name is Tanya, were on the phone with us the whole weekend, and that was Memorial Weekend, giving us support, helping through anything that we needed help through. They're absolutely amazing people in the OhioRiSE, and they truly care about each and every one of us. I mean, Jaden is home now. He was able to go on vacation with us that we always take him on. And the ladies at OhioRiSE that I'm dealing with are still there for us. Anything we need. If we needed more services, all I would have to do is contact his care coordinator, and she would take care of it for us. And if I have any questions, Shannon is always there for me. I mean, it's amazing how truly caring these women are. So right now, Jaden is in Pet Prentice. They are on summer break, and I'm shocked that he's so quiet right now and allowing me to talk.
And happy Father's Day to Don.
Yeah, he's, I'm going to tell you what, he is an awesome grandpa, that's for sure. And for him to have never had children, it's amazing that he is just as caring as he is. Because he's not Jaden's biological grandfather. And he is just the most wonderful person.
Well, thank you so much.
So
Sharon.
thank you. Thank you all for listening to my story. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
All right, I'm gonna wrap things up with OhioRiSE summary, and then we can do question and answer. So just to give some data about how the program's going, since it's coming up on our 1-year anniversary. When we talk about the CANS assessments that we use to get enrollment into the program, we knew we needed a lot of CANS assessors to perform these around the state. So to date, we've got over 2,700 CANS assessors that can perform that assessment around the state. So in all the counties, you can easily access a CANS assessor. And then they have submitted over 38,000 assessments to the Department of Medicaid's CANS IT system. And so far, we've gotten over 22,000 youth enrolled into the OhioRiSE program. So to wrap it all up about what OhioRiSE is, it's new services that are offered through OhioRiSE, and they're now Medicaid billable, such as the care coordination piece that both Sharon and Shannon talked about, as well as myself. The intensive home-based treatment the Mobile Response Crisis Stabilization Service, behavioral health respite and flexible dollars, care coordination. That really big part of the program is accessible to every child across the state. So that's something we're really proud of. It's actually available all across the state currently. We did build capacity for that service. So it's available to every child and youth and family, no matter where they live in the state of Ohio. And we built this program keeping in mind that we wanted to make sure that the services and the care coordination are really community-based to help families stay together and not need out-of-home placements if possible. And again, OhioRiSE is all about making sure that care coordination and the care coordinators that deliver this service are really thinking about how does it help families that are part of multiple systems, and how do we really think about building the system of care and growing it together. So identifying those resources that are needed to support families and making sure that they're accessible to families. And we do that through partnerships with other entities around the state as well. All right, I think that concludes our presentation. That's the OhioRiSE Medicaid inbox. And I think Shannon put her information in the chat too. So we can turn it back over to Angela to help us with any questions.